Good morning to all. Good morning to all the participants who are participating to WebEx link as well as the YouTube. Welcome to the session, the Candid conversation with the NIT Warangal Alumni Association Bengal chapter. Thanks to the network for taking the initiative to groom the students of NIT Warangal. Actually, this was started a long ago when some of the network people, me and the network people had a conversation and some time ago, and when I saw the interest of the network people, the way they want to spend their energy and time because they are very busy. So, but still they are spending. They want to spend their time to groom our students. It is very highly appreciable. So I would like to thank on my personal behalf and also on behalf of CCPD NIT Warangal for sparing their valuable time to groom our students. Hope this session will definitely bring some advantage to the students. So I will pass on baton to Srinidhi sir. Srinidhi sir, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Kiran. Good morning, everybody. It's quite a nice opportunity for us, and I would like to definitely thank our director and our co-panelists because this is quite an important subject. So without any further ado, I would like to just give you a kind of feel of what is in store for us for the next 2 hours. So I will just share my slide. So hope you can see the screen. Ram?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
we can see it.
So what we have planned is the poster, of course, you have seen, it's quite intriguing, I'm sure. Broadly speaking, we have real concern for your career matters. Okay. So that is one of the themes of today's thing. But before we go there, obviously, we need to sort of give a context to the whole thing. This incidentally is yesterday's headline in the Times of India newspaper. That is so topical and interesting that there is something like this called a work-life balance survey that has been done. And it turns out that that is more important than even an attractive salary. Okay, so it is going to be an interesting discussion for today. You guys can check this Times of India business page where we have this very interesting kind of thing. So why does your career matter is what the first question that we would all like to ask. But before we go there, I would like to take one step back, find out what is the need for this kind of candid conversation. What is the purpose of all these things? So my personal belief, and it's the belief of the team who are here, and I'm sure at the end of the session, you will all agree with me, that many life decisions are based purely on anecdotes and misinformation. There isn't a structured way of understanding what are the data points before you can take life decisions. More importantly, many of the stakeholders rarely tell you the real deal because they will tell you what they want you to know or what is serving their purpose. Okay. And unfortunately, this subject called career matters is not taught in the first year or not taught in any year. Very often it is never taught. It is learned the hard way, the trial and error way, making a lot of mistakes and things like that. So these are the three real big challenges. The other thing, of course, is the fact that a lot of myths are floating around. They need to be demystified. So during this season, we will be hopefully able to demystify many of the kind of myths and mysteries that has been offered by everybody. Looking at this career matter, how does it affect others? Let us start from there. How it affects you comes later. First, we need to understand how it affects other people. If you look at an employer, what is his perspective? See, he wants to manage perceptions of potential employees and make themselves, the company, attractive to the brightest and best candidates. Okay. What is your parents' perspective? It's important. They are very strong stakeholders in your life and career. They are invested in their children's success, but invariably that they see fulfillment of their own aspiration, of their own shortcomings. That also is there. I mean, I'm not blaming them, but what I'm trying to say is I'm a parent also. So in many ways, the fact that I never became a good musician, though I love music, made me get my daughter into music. So these are the things that affect us actually. What is the institution's perspective? What is it for NITW? Very high offers of salaries in the beginning are a credit to the institution. There's no doubt about it. So these are the background matters for other people's consideration. Now, what we're talking about this alumni institute program, why these candid conversations? We see as alumni, we have learned, as I said, by trial and error, but we would like to share this in an honest way and a compelling way. We don't want to bullshit you. We don't want to, paint you a picture which is nice to look at, and we don't want to also, preach to you. That is not the intention. We only want to break this hype that the world seems to have that it is either God is full of successful people or full of failure. That is not really true. Each of us in our own way are successes, but we have also had a lot of failures on our own. By sharing our stories, we hope to give back to the institution, to you guys, more than just money. See, as you earn more and more money, it is easier to give money because time becomes more valuable than money. But always time is the thing which really matters a lot. So we are hopefully sort of contributing time to all of this thing. And who should participate? Who are the likely, audience for this? Freshers to final years of undergrad and postgrad courses. There is a broader audience, but this is what we are talking about from NITW point of view. All disciplines, all the branches of STEM, whether it is science or technology or engineering or math, all of them, it is relevant to them. Alumni who see themselves as peers and mentors to students. That is also quite important for them because in a way we are trying to build a structure around how we move forward this season where we're going to be talking about your career matters, how everybody can contribute in their own inimical ways. That is the whole idea behind the exercise. Remember that even successful and mildly unsuccessful alumni can help you define success. It's very important that you define success. Without that, you're always going to be searching. So this is an important characteristic of what we are talking about. Now, we talk about the real topic of today. Are you in control of your career? What is the flow for this subject? We're going to use a question answer format so that it will be a relay between one panelist and another panelist. Each panelist will elaborate on one theme, but will ponder on the other's themes also. Audience can raise questions in the chat situation. Let's start with episode 1. Are you in control of your career? Okay. So I will stop sharing my screen and I would like to hand over this next set to the director to share a few words with us.
Thank you, Srinidhi. Thank you for giving a good creating awareness and trying to say that this particular candid talk is for the myths and realities. In fact, I was really impressed the way it is different from routine rather than simply giving lecturing. You have made it a candid conversation. That is where I think we feel more informal and discuss in more reality what is needed and what is not required and what should be done and what should not be done. In fact, I'm glad that the Alumni Association is doing exceptionally well of NIT Warangal. And apart from providing career advice, mentoring, placement, and internship to current students, I also strongly feel that you actually uh, act as a positive role models to the current students, and you always provide expert advice and guidance to the students. So this is one of the activity, and just to keep you aware that one of the recent activity of alumni, which has actually really been appreciated worldwide, is donation of laptops to the poor and needy, and it was well received, and because you all went online. So I think this sort of candid conversation will properly create awareness and how to do good in their careers, and because you're actually not sure what is going on the other side. Till now you're sitting on one side. Once you actually start getting job, you have to take up responsibility. But I thought, since I have another meeting at 12:15, I only request the organizers, I'll be speaking once in the middle and then now and so I'll take slightly more time in the beginning, and then I will try to leave the meeting. But please continue and make a record of all the recommendations that has come out of this candid conversation. As a fresh student, as a student who is going for career placements and all that, what do the companies expect? I mean, some of they expect many things apart from your subject knowledge, domain knowledge. Of course, good communication skills is very important, and then your ability to acquire knowledge beyond the textbooks. So don't just stick to your textbooks. You have to go beyond what is taught in the classrooms, what we call as beyond the classroom. I would also advise you, you should have a characteristic ability to lead. You should be a leader. Rather than when I did actually a small survey in a class which I was taking, I found that out of 60 students, 20% of the students wanted to become employer themselves. They wanted to set up their own industry. The other 20 said, "Sir, first we want to get into employment, and later we want to set up an industry." So some of you could become entrepreneurs, some of you could become job creators, and the remaining 20% said that we want to go for employment. The other 20 said we want to go for research and higher studies. So each one is coming has got a different ambition and idea. So what I advise is, you should be very clear and accordingly plan your career, because once you take a step, once you get into organization, it's very difficult to change the organization. So you have to be very clear. It's not just the salary, it's how the future is going to be in the near future, and how the things are going to change, especially for circular branches. We are aware that there's a lot of changes in the technology. So therefore, you should be able to acquire the knowledge consistently and beyond the textbook. And luckily, the national education policy has given opportunity for you to come back and upgrade your knowledge. Multiple entries and multiple exits. So that is one of the things. So you should be able to lead and have a positive approach, because that is very, very important. And please get familiar with the latest technology, especially when we are seeing technology is changing so fast. Mobile technology, for example, we started 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. So you should be aware of these basic things, and then you should have willingness to travel. Don't just say that I want a job. If you belong to Warangal, I want to have a job only in Warangal. Don't restrict yourself. So don't. You should be willing to travel, and then you'll have a lot of opportunities. And that is what the success story of our alumni actually probably they'll be discussing in during the candid conversation, how they faced and what situations they have faced. And another key thing, which I would like to advise, that you should be able to multitask, do several things, not that, you are doing only one thing. Multitasking is very important. Versatility is also very, you should be versatile in your activities. You should have other talents and also like things is going to take you a long way. And then obviously, if you want to succeed in life, you should be ambitious, should have a proper attitude and create the necessary aptitudes. And most importantly, and very important, what has gained in recent times is the ethics and human values. This is something professional ethics. To learn the professional ethics and apply ethical principles and commitment to profession and all that. Because many times, you find that you're not doing things in a proper way. So ethical and values are very, very important. And then as a student, I would like to advise you that you should have societal responsibilities. You should understand how your work is helping the society, how it is helping the environment. So you should all have possess managerial skills, and then also you should be confident about yourself and have self-employment capabilities, and you should be able to manage domain-specific projects. And for the companies, once you are from NIT Warangal, they expect a lot from you. So you have to be very positive and think positive. And most importantly, which is lacking is the research mindset. The research mindset among the students is something which is going to be very, very fetching, because once you go a job, think of how you can improve it, how you can make things better, and that is how your value increases and the organization would like to actually take you. So you should be able to analyze complex domain-specific problems, review the literature, and whenever you get an opportunity, because once you are in a profession, you have timelines, deadlines, everything. You are under a lot of pressure. But yes, please find time to relax and also try to enjoy with your family, your mind and stress also, and you need to take other precautions also as per the situation like this pandemic. So this is my initial advice, and then I also speak in the middle somewhere around 12:50, and then I would like to leave. So thank you, Srinidhi, for organizing this, and I think I really pleased the way it has been organized, and I see more than 560 participants on the WebEx, and I think YouTube's. I don't know how many are watching. This is going to be really, really very useful. Once again, I take this opportunity to congratulate the Bangalore chapter of NITWA, Mr. Ram, and I see Mr. Iyer also is there, and others. And Srinidhi, especially, has been pursuing me time and again. And unfortunately, recently my father passed away, so there were some ceremonies, so I could not give her full time. But anyway, thank you for organizing it, and wish you all the best and all the good luck in all your careers. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Not at all a problem. So we will have one more question for you midway through, and after that, the wrap-up session, we will request someone else to do that. Not an issue. So now,
12:15,
sorry,
12:15 around. I will be there up to 12:15. So before that, you can have one more question.
Yeah. We will have one question answer. So without much further ado, I have already explained the structure of today's panel discussion and everything. I would like to hand it over to Ashwini with the simple question: are you in control of your career? When I say Ashwini, I don't mean you. Of course, you are in total control of your career. I'm just wanting you to answer the question to, or ask the question to students and give some kind of insights into that. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Srinidhi. That was a good way to start as well. I hope I'm audible here.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, you're clearly audible. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. And I think such a wonderful start. We have such an excellent audience out here, as we are seeing more than 500 plus students who are participating here. Thanks for such a nice forward from Dr. Ramana Rao, Director Sir, and opening up and insisting on to the importance of leadership, going back to society, building up your career, all of that, right? First of all, it is such a nice feeling, frankly speaking, this Sunday morning to be among so many students out there who are willing to understand and explore more things, how they can build a better career. And with our umbrella question saying, are you in control? Okay, let's take a step back and observe here. Every single one of you who are here right at NIT Warangal, right? You are definitely talented. There is no doubt about it. And that's the very reason why you are here. And through your journey of BTech or MTech or whatever course that you are undergoing, definitely through these years, you are going to get polished. You are going to get, polished and grilled all through to make sure that you do come out with, great prospects for your career ahead. But now, in this whole process, the question remains, while you get polished well for the career, are you in control of the career? And that's what is leading us. Let me just share my screen here. Somehow my share is, Dr. Kiran, my share is disabled. Is there something you can do to enable my screen share?
I'll make it.
All right, let me just proceed further while my share gets enabled here. It was enabled earlier. All right.
Stop sharing, and then probably you can get released.
Say again?
It must stop sharing.
Okay. Yeah, okay, now it is enabled for me. And here we go. All right. So when we talk about the question, are you in control? Okay, let's try to look at, what does it mean actually? You might be surprised saying, I scored so well in JEE and I have now got a seat in NIT Warangal and seem to be going well. There are a lot of job opportunities coming our way. Finally, students we have seen bagging some very fantastic offers out there. And if all these things are happening, then where is the need for that question? Where is the need for that question? Now, let me just try to take you forward on that front. Take an example. Out of all of the students out here, right? Many of you may have taken, right? Many of you may have taken science, maths in your 11th and 12th standard, not necessarily with your choice, but maybe because of variety of other factors. Many others would have taken seriously because they were deeply interested in that. After that, you happen to get into JEE, scored well, you happen to get into NIT Warangal, also moving ahead. Similarly, you will get into the job as well. But then at every point in time, you're just trying to chase one target after another. After every point, you're trying to chase one target after another. Hearsay, as Shrindi also mentioned in the beginning, many of the decisions get taken by anecdotes and maybe the heard about things there, right? Not for everyone, but for many of us, right? So then, does it mean that we are in control here? Right? I would like to just talk about three major things. I'll not take a lot of time, but out of my experiences, there are three major things which I want to talk today to connect you and give you the perspective about, the control of your career out here. Okay, the first thing which I want to talk about is that which is the way, in what manner are you building your career? What is your career building approach? If the way I explained that as per anecdotes, as per hereabout, as per assumption that engineering is going to be a great career, if you take it, that appears to be more like chasing. That appears more like chasing. You are chasing one target after another. Someone told if you can just score well in 12th, life is set. And then you realize no, it is not set because you have to score well in JE. Okay, once you score well, life is set. Doesn't look like. Then you have once you enter the engineering college, you realize there's a tons of struggle there. And somehow someone says that by the time you begin your 7th semester, beginning of final year, and then you get a good job placement and life is set. Again, it doesn't turn out to be that way. Now you are at probably that stage or any time earlier. But I'm trying to take you forward. I do come across many engineering graduates, those who have spent, just a fresher or maybe few years during the career as well, who realize later, no, this is not their cup of tea, what they are trying to do. That doesn't mean that engineering is not right for them. All it means is that the kind of work, the kind of profession they are getting involved into doesn't seem to be right for them, which basically means that all throughout they have been chasing, or if little higher, they have been just trying to comply with the kind of expectations that have been put around them. Right? In fact, when I say many candidates whom I come across, that's again a part of my profession as well as a career mentor, and not just other people outside. I'm talking about some of our own alumni as well. Those who have graduated from NIT Warangal, they also get in touch with me, and I try to understand as to what is going wrong or what is causing you not so happy in your career. And it turns out that for some reason, they happen to be into that job without knowing much as to what they are getting into. And that is where I talk about somewhere between chasing to complying. Chasing is just trying to chase the target, and complying is just trying to make sure things are being addressed well as per the expectations. As per the expectations set by parents, expectations set by the college, expectations set by maybe your company or the manager, and then you are trying to fulfill that. But then life is much more fantastic beyond that. And it is when you start leading your career. That's where, in a simple, we all are, engineering folks here, so we understand a simple, XY two-dimensional kind of a graph. And you see that you indeed have higher job satisfaction, you enjoy what you do, as well as the rewards that start coming your way sooner or later are going to be phenomenal when you start leading your career. That is when we say that you are indeed getting in control of your career. You are deciding your destiny. Let me just try to unfold it a little bit more. So when I say leading your career, what does it mean? Right? You need to be knowing what you are doing and what is it you intend to do, right? Many kind of job offers that come your way in the campus, right? Many of them, quite fairly attractive on the remuneration, which is great because indeed being able to earn good amount of money is also fairly important. But at the same time, another very important thing, that is not the only thing, right? That is not the only thing. What you need to look for is what is it that you love doing, and therefore you can put your heart and soul into that. Okay, let me take you next from that. So this was the first thing we talked about, that what is your approach? Are you chasing, complying, or intending to lead your career? Let's get into the next part of it, right? What makes you to lead? And therefore the question, right? How do you make, or to be more specific, where do you make the impact? A very simple pictorial representation here. Where do you make the impact as a part of your work right now? Being a student, also there is a certain kind of an impact you make, and going forward into your working profession, whether as an entrepreneur, as a salaried person, or whatever the kind of work that you involve into, where do you make the impact? Right? And this emerges from a very beautiful concept, which I read this book, and I love this book from Stephen Covey, which is about the 7 habits of highly effective people. If at all you have not come across this, I highly recommend every one of you, please grab a copy of it and go through it. It really is an eye opener for you to understand how you can become effective. And that is where the impact comes into play. When you are effective at the core of it, right? For example, these days it's a very common affair that many candidates, depending, no matter which branch of engineering they're studying, they land up getting a job into an IT industry, into software or development, or marketing, or maybe a user interface, whatever kind of things that they happen to get into. It might be good for many of them, but might not be that well for many others. Now the question comes that if it is not well for many others, why did they choose it? As Shridi also mentioned in the beginning, companies are looking at from their perspective. They find a good talent in you that you can serve them. But the question is, are you serving your future by joining that kind of a job? Right? If you are not really enjoying that particular thing, guess what? You are going to be working onto the periphery of the subject matter. You are going to be not making a big impact into the core of the business, the particular project or the respective business unit, or whatever the work that company is doing. You may not be making an impact into the core of it. And until you get into the core of it, you are not indispensable. Later, I think Srinidhi is going to touch upon, we are going to pass on that question to him as well, as to what makes you indispensable, right? But only when you become that you are making an impact, and that's when you start realizing a lot of rewards coming your way. You start enjoying your career because you are into the center of the entire game. And therefore, you have started leading your career. I hope I'm making sense here. Let me take you to the third aspect here. Not too many things I'm talking about, but very basic things out of the sheer experiences we have acquired in the industry. The next one here is, how much is your value creation? Right? Not often that when I interact with youngsters, that I see that dialogue emerging from the youngsters about value creation. Not often. But this is extremely important, because this is where you create a position yourself, you make a name for yourself, and you stand out. Now, this value creation is also kind of a 3-layered kind of an approach. At the core of it lies your passion. What is it that you really enjoy, and what is it that makes you to overcome all kinds of pains and difficulties and challenges that come your way? Remember, anything which is worthy, anything which is worthy of its value, it definitely will have a lot of difficulties and challenges on its way. Some of those challenges you will have the courage and fun to overcome, but many other challenges you might not want to, and might want to rather avoid them. The ones which you intend to overcome are the ones because they are a part of your core interest. That's what you love doing. That is what you are passionate about. Be it solving an engineering problem in your respective domain, be it developing software, be it interacting with the customers, be it product marketing, be it in terms of user experience design, be it whatever kind of things. But everyone is made differently. Please understand, right? Your best friend might not be like you, and the vice versa. And therefore, it is about having your soul searching to figure out what is it you are passionate about. There are many kind of job providers coming into the campus, a whole lot of companies from all diversified fields. You should be picking and choosing that which ones are relevant for me. Do you even pay enough attention? Let me ask this question. Do you even pay enough attention to go through the details of the job responsibility, the kind of job role for which the companies are coming and recruiting you? Right? Maybe some of you, maybe partly in depth, but I really encourage, go through the details. LinkedIn is a fantastic place for you to do a lot of your research, to figure out details. What does this kind of a job role which the company is offering me means? Is this the one which I want to begin with? Right? And once you start heading it in your domain of profession, in your domain of passion, and that's where you start creating a differentiator for yourself. This is really great.
Wonderful. Excellent, Ashwini. Very good, Gyan. Amazing, Gyan.
All right, thank you. Yeah. So and all these things I have not been taught this way. I have learned it in the hard way. And our whole objective today is to be able to connect with you, right? The e-platform has its own limitations. Of course, we wish someday that we have a lot of interactive discussion as well. However, still the hard-earned experience basis which I'm trying to share here is the differentiator that you create, right, fundamentally is a barrier that you're creating for the rest around you. I repeat, it is the barrier that you're creating for the rest around you to jump into your space. It's like you are flexing your muscles and spreading the zone of influence around you. And that's where, it is like, the share, which is like Jungle Ka Raja types, right? And this is how you finally start gradually dictating the terms. And that is where there is an immense amount of value that you're creating, right? The differentiator cannot be away from the set of job roles, responsibilities, what your customers expect. Eventually, whatever you are working, as an entrepreneur, as an employee, or as a consultant, as a freelancer, whatever, you are working to serve your customers. Eventually, you exist because of your customers. And finally, if by passion, by your differentiators, when you are adding the value, you are indeed adding phenomenal value for your customers. Your company is just a mechanism. It is basically a vehicle through which you are serving the respective customers, and that's when you start shining. So the more you get into the depth of your passion, rather than being on the sideways, and that much amount of differentiator you add for yourself, and therefore enable a greater value creation. In fact, so much so that, again, as a part of my experience, as I interact with many of the young folks out there, those who are in mid-20s or even in mid-30s for that matter, right? Many times the question that emerges when people contact me is like, I'm getting stuck up in my career. I'm not seeing the growth. I'm not getting, salary hike or promotion or this or that, right? And the next question which I pose to them is that, fine, that's very important, very relevant. However, please tell me, do you also have a question as to how much value that you are adding as a part of your job? And then suddenly it is followed by a silence. Now, there are answers out there, but then the silence speaks that that has not been at the top of the mind. And I can tell you that if value creation is on the top of your mind, then your promotion, your salary, your growth is not your problem. It is your manager's problem, because he would start realizing that if he's not keeping you satisfied, you might jump any other day. That doesn't become your problem any longer, right? Let's just shift the entire onus onto someone else. You focus on value creation. Let someone else take care of your career growth out there. Very simple.
In fact, there's a valid point here. Yeah, what next? In terms of what would be your question you ask me or the other panelists, for instance?
Yeah, I would just
something like that.
Yes, I would just go ahead on that.
More questions, yeah.
Yeah, I would just want to quickly summarize. So the point is, all I'm talking about is take control of your career. Use your passion to create your differentiator, and in that whole process, enjoy what you're doing, and the vice versa, do what you're enjoying, right? So create a barrier, be the competition rather than chasing. That is where I'm talking about not chasing but leading. Create the competition which others would want to chase you rather than you wanting to chase. I mean, start thinking that way. It's at the end of it, it's all about your strategic thinking, which is going to make the difference. And bottom line, in this whole process, everyone needs a good mentor. Please figure out whether your parents, whether your seniors, whether your professors, or someone else, or maybe someone from alumni, someone could be there as a mentor, as someone guiding you. Please don't hesitate in asking the help. Now, having said that, so actually this said, the next question which I want to pass on is, if you were to do all these things, right, what is your driving motivation for that? What will ignite you to do that? How will you remain motivated to do that? Maybe let me pass on the baton to Venkatesh. Would you want to take it up?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Ashwini. Very interesting perspective you have given about what's happening today in the minds of the youth and how they are many times getting into catch-22 situations. And then the question which you asked just now, what should be the driving motivation for the youth, is it is a very, very relevant question which many people are not really thinking too deeply about, but this is the right time for them to think about it. Can I have some screen sharing option, Dr. Kiran? Yeah, until it gets shared, let me just ask you also. See, what should be the driving motivation for each one of us? That is something which is unique for each individual. There's nothing like one size fits all. It's something like you have a idea, you will do according to that. For example, can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Uh, See, it is unique for each individual. There's nothing.
Yeah, you can go into presentation mode. It's visible now, clearly visible. You can
It's
go into
visible.
presentation.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah, so it is something unique for each individual. Only I can change my life. It's mine, and no one else can control it. But then, keeping all this in mind, we need to have some things to look at in terms of what we want to do. For example, goal setting is a very important aspect of whatever we do. Goals can be short term as well as long term, but then when you're at the beginning of your career or just finishing your college life, short term goals are important, but long term goals are equally important. Start thinking what you would want to do, let us say immediately after finishing your graduation. You whether some people would want to study further, some people would want to immediately get into a job, some others might want to study and then go for a job later on. But then have very clear goals, write them down. Don't decide that your friend is doing something, so you need to do something similar. That's the worst thing you can do, because after some time you'll find you're not happy in that. Of course, long-term goals could be a 5-year horizon, it could be a 10-year horizon, but please decide on them today. Otherwise, you will get lost on the way. Also, another very important aspect of a goal setting is that it need not be written on stone. It is something which you're planning, you're fixing today, but then as you go down, maybe 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, you will find that what you decided is wrong. Then you please decide and change it immediately. One more very important aspect of goal setting, which I have found many people do not concentrate on, is look at what you like and what your skills are. Try to align your goals to these likes and skills, because at the end of the day, you want to enjoy your work. You don't want to get into a rut and then feel that, okay, I'm going in the morning, coming back in the evening, and then I'm fed up. That should never be the way it should be. It should be an adventure, basically. So you decide on something which will make you enjoy your work and make it part of your life. And as Srinidhi was mentioning at some point of time initially, this will help you very much in your work-life balance, because finally, end of the day, that is what you want to look at. Another aspect of goal setting which you should keep in mind is do not necessarily align with current trends. Today, something might be a hot subject, especially I am talking with respect to the IT sector. Today, something which is a hot subject can be redundant tomorrow. Maybe after 6 months, 1 year, you need to learn something else. So look at long-term trends and based on that, set your goals. That is what is something very, very important in terms of making your motivation identified. Of course, you also need to have a success strategy. You need to have a roadmap and plan something in such a way that you love to do it. But then this success strategy need not be something very complicated. You define small individual steps, and these can lead to your final goals. When you have small individual steps, these are easier to achieve. also make it a satisfying and challenging journey which you're going to have. And why I'm using the word journey is finally engineering or whatever you're doing today is not the end of it. It is just the beginning of a long journey which you're going to take. And then if you're going to have fun on the journey, that's what is going to make it more pleasurable. Also, in terms of success strategy, keep in mind, as Ashwini was mentioning, don't just see and think about what your company or where you're going to work is going to give you. Think of what you can do to make it better, and then don't just achieve what is expected at your work. Exceed your expectations. That is much, much, much more important, and it automatically gives you your results which you need and which helps you to decide on whatever motivates you. Of course, an important aspect of motivation is to prioritize also. In your daily life, you will have so many things which are getting distracted. For example, you have friends who want to party, but you need to finish some project because there's a deadline tomorrow. Keep your priorities right. Don't get distracted. It also helps to practice time management. Of course, in terms of time management, if you really want to talk about it, it's an entire subject in itself. But then there are a lot of things on the net which you can read to help you to practice time management. And then focus always on your goals, your short term and your long term goals, which you would have set. I am sure many of you by now would have set you at least your short term goals. For example, preparing for CAT, preparing for GMAT, for etc., and all those things. But then focus on them. If you have not yet started thinking on your goals, better do it now. It is not too late, but it is the right time to do it now. Also, yes, one more very important aspect which we need to keep in mind. Being an alumni of NIT Warangal, I know that the college gives us a very strong foundation in our stream of education. You might have decided on mechanical or electrical or civil or whatever. But then life expects much, much more of you. It's not just what you would have learned here. You need to pick up skills on the way. You need to keep updating yourself in your field of specialization so that you can grow satisfyingly in your career. And as I mentioned just a while ago, especially for the IT professionals, you need to keep adding new skills day in and day out. And as Ashwini was mentioning also, try to be multidisciplinary. It helps to add skills in finance and management among other skills. Just to give you an example, we had, I hope we continue to have in NITW a semester, one subject on finance and another also on management. These helped me a lot when I started my career because then I needed to recollect many of the things I learned and apply them in my day-to-day activities, which helped me to do well, which helped me to be recognized and to identify myself. So these are things which are all very, very important, very relevant today because many students come out and then they are like a fish out of water when they start their first job. I'm sure that most of the students from NIT are not like that. But I have found from other colleges that this is what happens, and then they need to unlearn and relearn. We don't want that. We want to continue to learn. And that is going to be our mantra until the end of our career. That is how it is. And just before I end, I would like to ask a question to Ram. Ram, why do many of us get carried away by attractive looking job offers? We don't do deep dive and then we get stuck, we get carried away. What do you suggest for our friends to be able to do to get better in terms of their careers and their jobs. Over
Okay.
to you, Ram.
Thank you. Thank you, Venkatesh. Okay. So let me, okay. So before we just go into little deep into this question, so we need to understand how things work. Okay. So can I get a share option here? Yeah.
Ram, before you start off, director has to leave in the next 15 minutes.
Okay.
So in the middle, if you can interrupt your thing, you can hand it over to him, just the questions which you want from him, then come back to your session, okay? Midway through yours.
I think actually it is better. So because my question also is connected to his question. So I think let's put his perspective also. A lot of students, okay, get really good offers. Okay. So I would like to check Ramana Rao Garu. So what does really college think and students think when a student gets, let's say, 30 lakhs per annum, 40 lakhs per annum, 50 lakhs per annum? So how do you justify, how do we justify the other people who may not have got that kind of a offer? Okay, how do they feel? And then what exactly, from the college perspective, these kind of offers, how do you think that these kind of offers impact the lives of students?
Yeah, thank you, Ram, for asking that question. Obviously, from the institute point of view, we always publicize the highest salary and the average salary. In fact, that is what carries attraction for the media and other things. For example, this year, I think about two of our students got 51 lakhs. Last year, 52 lakhs. So that is what it counts. But compared to what the other students think, as already told by the Venkatesh, it is not the same for everybody. Each one is different. It's not just the package, because once a company is offering you that much amount, they have a lot of expectations from you also. So whether those expectations fit your ideas, your career path, and what you want to do, here's something the individuals have to decide. So obviously, it's a competitive environment, and so sometimes some students prefer brand name like the companies. Some students prefer the package. So it all depends on individual student. Some students prefer the long-term career, and I've seen many students, while discussing, they want to join a company not just to stay with it for a long time. Maybe at a later date, they want to switch and start their own company. So they want to gain some initial experience. So different students have different perspectives. So our experience actually at NIT Warangal is, yes, we are proud of the student getting the maximum package, but other students also are equally proud and they don't get too much depressed. But they're also encouraged, yes, we can offer, and especially the younger students, they know this is the benchmark and they try to excel. I don't know whether I have answered your question or not, but that is what I thought. But anyway, if the others can answer it better, probably Kiran may be the right person because he has regular interaction with students. But I would like to just conclude before I leave. Especially, I have heard the talk of Ashwin Thambi and Venkatesh. Ashwin Thambi said, create aware, take control of your own career. So that is very, very important. And then do what you enjoy. And that is something very, very important. And passion is something which everybody should have, whatever profession they choose. If you have passion, you can excel. And that is how most successful people have been doing. And then you have to choose a mentor, who can guide you properly from time to time. So that is where alumni play a very, very important role. And then Venkatesh also very rightly mentioned that what is the driving motivation? He talked about goal setting and success strategies, and also he asked us to time management and prioritize the activities. And very nicely he pointed out the importance of knowledge and skill development, because you cannot just stick to what you have learned in the school days. So many times, college days, many times you have to learn and relearn. I don't know how many of you have read the book by Alvin Toffler, Future Shock. He says a very interesting quote. He says, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who are able to read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn and relearn. So unlearning and relearning is the new mantra which everybody has to do, and you should be on your toes. I would just like to conclude with what I always call, which is fits. This one fits everybody. It's called as A, B, C, D, E. A is in all of you should have ambition and develop right aptitudes, and attitude should be positive. You should have a positive attitude. So ambition, aptitude, and attitudes are very, very important for your growth. The second thing is your B. B is your behavior and body language. The way you behave with your colleagues, the way you talk to somebody, to the boss, and all that. These are things, these are minor things which are not taught anywhere, but that makes a lot of difference to your whole career growth. Somebody is comfortable with you discussing, then you become a team player, and that is very, very important. The third thing is C. I said C is you should have confidence in yourself. Yes, you can do it, and develop the necessary competence, and then do it with commitment. Whatever you task you take up, uh, do it with commitment. And then D is as a Venkatesh also told you should be time management, so you should be disciplined, in your thing, and dedicated, and you should be very. What I always say is something which you dedicated and devotion. You should always do something with devotion that will make a lot of difference to your career, and determination. Be determined to do whatever you want to do. So determination, dedication, devotion, and discipline. And finally, E is do it with a lot of energy, and enthusiasm. You have a lot of energy and enthusiasm. Put your best effort, and your experience does count. So this E is also very, very important. So I always say the mantra for success in any career, whether you join now or in future or wherever you are, is ABCD. Don't forget, this is going to take you a long way in your career. For all of us, even this applies to me also as an administrator, as a director. So I always remember this. Yes, we should be ambitious. Unless we are ambitious, we cannot work hard. Something has to drive us. The nice question was, what is your driving motivation? So you should be ambitious. And I think I would like to stop here. I have already taken a lot of time beyond what was allotted to me. But really, once again, I thank all the participants and all the members of the distinguished members of NITWA Bangalore, and my own colleague Kiran Kumar, in fact, who has been very encouraging, and he has been a person who actually, since he has taken over the charge of CCPD, he has made things differently. Yes, we require a lot of inputs from other people outside the society. So kindly allow me to leave the meeting at 12:15 exactly, because I have linked into other things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay. So just add to what
Ram, if I may interrupt once, I'm sorry to interrupt, Ram. I just want to make a request to all the participants, all our students here, that please feel free to put your questions into your Q&A in the WebEx platform. Towards the end, when we have more time, we'll be happy to answer your questions as well. So please do raise your questions as and when you have the questions. We will try to answer as many of them. Thank you. Yes, Ram, please go ahead.
Okay, so this one I would like to just connect the dots with Director Sir. So I think a few years back, I was in Delhi, and I was interacting with one of the directors of a pretty large multinational company. Okay, so this multinational company, we are pitching to one insurance company, and we were talking in the evening, saying casually, I checked with them, so, okay, you guys go to colleges and give pretty big salaries for the freshers. Okay, so here is I am, okay, I give good money, but whether I give good money or not, it takes me almost like a year to 2 years to get some value out of fresh engineers. Then how are you able to give, and why do you give? Okay, he said, if you don't quote my name, I will tell you the reason. Okay, the reason he said that, if we go to any engineering college and we give offer, so we get a positive marketing coverage in the local media. It is definitely not that they give us value, which is much more than what we are paying. Okay, no, not at all. It is purely we want to get the mileage out of the media. So people should to get good word about our company, so that right people join our company in future. So this is what he said, but whether it's true, it is his own opinion. Okay, let's look at what exactly is this under the hood. When we are getting a job, what is it? What is the salary means for us? But I would like to share. So before you can choose whether this is right career for me, this is right company for me. So you need to understand what companies look like and how do you judge those companies. So I'll share a small. Okay, let me share my screen. So in this, we'll try to go. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, it's okay. So I will try to give you some fundamentals about how do you judge companies and how do you judge jobs. And at the same time, how do you judge your own self so that whether you fit it in that company or whether you don't fit it. So that's what I'm going to take you through. So then you'll understand. So the difference between fat salaries and the companies that are not giving fat salaries. Okay. So let's take the examples. How do you understand a company? So I would like to put all these companies into 4 different types of companies. Okay, let's make them. So let's understand what these companies are. Product companies, solution companies, services companies, and operational companies. Okay. So to make sure that you understand what these companies, I would like to take a very small example of every day-to-day example of a doctor. Okay, so you see a lot of hospitals. You may have in Warangal, so probably 100-bed hospital. But when you go to a hospital, the first thing that you go is you go with a problem. So you have a health problem, or your friend or your family member has got a health problem. When you go to the health problem, when you have a health problem, do you go to the nurse and ask, okay, I have a health problem. Okay, can you give me this injection or can you give me this medicine? So we don't do that. Okay, we go to the doctor. Okay, so doctor tries to understand our problem. Okay, so let's say, are you getting this problem for the last 1 year, 3 years, okay, 6 months, or only recently? Okay, how is the pain? Where do you get the pain? Okay, and how do you feel in the night? Do you get fever? So all of those questions he asks, and he gives a solution to your problem by understanding what could be a problem within your body. Okay, so a doctor in this case is a solutioning expert. He can give a solution for you. Okay, solution companies are the companies that give a if a company is having a problem, they give a solution. So that's how solution companies are defined. But can a doctor give a solution just like that? If you think at it, no, they won't be able to give you just like that a solution. They will have to know what are the available medicines in the market, what are the injections that I have to give to this patient, and which is the company which is manufacturing this kind of a medicine, and he prescribes this medicine. And also he prescribes what kind of a portions. Is it 200 mg? Is it 500 mg? Etc. So the product companies are the companies which manufacture products. Okay. A solution companies are the companies which understand a client problem and tries to use the products and then give them a solution. Now, what is a services company? So services companies are the ones that are able to execute things when a task is specified. So for example, doctor prescribes, okay, yeah, you have to get this injection, you have to get this saline to be done. So that instruction goes to a nurse, nearby nurse or a duty doctor, and they are the people who bring that injection and administer that injection to you in a nice and neat way. Okay. And the services companies are something like nurses where, okay, so well-defined tasks have been given and they execute that. So if at all, for example, the medicine fails, okay, so an injection has been given by the nurse and that injection has given a reaction, does the patient shout at the nurse? No, he won't be looking at nurse as the person who has done the crime. He thinks that the doctor has given this injection, and this injection, the problem has come from the solution guy, not from the services guy. So that is how you can understand product companies do a lot of research, okay, thinking that these are the problems that are available, these are the problems that may come, and they design products and they think about those products. And then in turn, they also market them. So how do these products go into the market? I come to the operational companies. Okay, so there are a lot of operational companies that work behind the scenes. So once a medicine is manufactured, this medicine goes to the medical shops. How does it go to the medical shops? You will have distributors and distributors to dealers, dealers to shops. Okay, there are a lot of employees who work in these companies, which will distribute these products and make it available to the nearest customer available. Okay, so at a very gross level, if you look at it, you can make the companies like product companies, solution companies, services companies, operational companies. When you look at a company name that has come for Campus Drive, you may not be able to figure it out whether it is a product company, whether it is a solution company, whether it is a services company. But definitely, okay, if you study about the company, you will be able to understand. How does these companies differ in terms of, okay, employees, okay? So I'll give you some examples, okay? So take the example of Apple. Apple across the world has got about 150 employees, okay? And their revenues are $274 billion, okay? Try to understand. So now Microsoft is also a product company, okay, which has got 165K employees, 165,000, 165,000 employees, but they generated about $143 billion revenues. But our own company, okay, so Infosys, Indian company Infosys, which is a services company, is having 249 employees, and then it has generated last year $13.6 billion revenue. Okay. And let's say there is a in Bangalore, if you land in a Bangalore airport, you see a lot of advertisements about a company called Quest Corporation, okay, which supplies manpower to for security, cleaning, etc. So a lot of manpower. So they have about 363K employees, okay, 363,000, and they generated $1.3 billion revenue. Okay, so if you look at it, the product companies per employee productivity is expected productivity is very, very high. Okay, when you come to the services company, it even comes down drastically. And then if you come to the operational companies, it goes even down further. So first and foremost, when you look at companies, you need to understand whether the company for which I'm applying for the job, are they basically a product kind of a companies, or a solution type of companies, or services kind of a companies, and operational companies. Now look at this scenario. So does all the product companies have only certain type of jobs? I don't say that, okay, all of the product companies will have fantastic jobs. They will have 80% of their DNA will have certain characteristics that they expect out of the job. And same thing, operational companies, they expect certain kind of qualities in the candidates when they offer a job for them, okay? Now let's look at, you understand there are companies can be categorized into 4 different types, but let's look at what type of a jobs you can categorize. Okay, so let's look at, there are majorly you can differentiate companies into 2 different types of jobs. Okay, some are creative, flexible, thinking kind of jobs where you need to be creative, you need to be flexible, you have to be thinking, you have to be learning. Okay, this is what is expected in certain job profiles. So this job profile may come from a services company, may come from a solutions company, may come from a product company. But predominantly, product companies will be looking for people who are creative, who are flexible, who are thinking, and who are very deep guys. Okay, and whose fundamentals are very, very strong. Same way, there are some jobs, okay, which are operational, very tactical, and process driven, and typically they become repetitive in nature. Okay, so try to understand, a small company which is started, let's say, with 50 employees, it has become 10,000 employees. Visualize, if you join a company which is having a 10,000 employees, you have to understand that the 10,000 employee has scaled to that level only by a process that they put into the employees. Okay, though as the companies grow in numbers, they are driven by processes. Okay, they define what an employee is supposed to do, and they want a discipline to be followed, and they expect very within the narrow area work to be done. Okay, and these jobs, are they good or bad? Okay, let's not judge them. They're good, they're also bad. How they become good and how they become bad, it depends on the person who is joining. Okay, let's look at, okay, the third angle that you need to look at it is, how about you? So what is it, the job that fits you? You can tell, not a company can tell you whether this job fits you, or I can tell you, but as a person, as an individual, you can decide, okay, am I the candidate for this type of a job, or am I candidate for this type of a job? Can definitely be, okay, can definitely be guided by your own self. So from now onwards, because you got a very good understanding of what are these typical companies, okay, and what are the typical job profiles, you need to understand yourself also. Okay, how do you understand yourself? Okay, very simple. Okay, very simple. So at a very high level, you can put people into introverts and extroverts. Also, very disciplined. Okay, so you can be a disciplined person. So let's look at the best of the best big people. Let's say if you look at Microsoft's head. Okay, so Bill Gates, is he an extrovert or is he an introvert? If you question, is he an extrovert or is he an introvert? So if you look at it, most of the top leaders are generally not outgoing extroverts. Okay, and this thing is not something which I have coined this idea, but there is a book, very good book called Quiet. Okay, so the book name itself is called Quiet, and this has done tremendous amount of research. Okay, on how do leaders develop. Okay, so generally they came out with a scientific thinking that quiet people and introverts are generally are the people, they go into very high leadership positions. Okay, so leadership positions, let's define what is leadership position. So in these kind of operational, tactical, process driven companies, you have a very good, well defined hierarchy. Okay, and you know, okay, so let me go back to this slide. In product companies, okay, so let's go to the product companies. Product companies think ahead of times. Okay, they visualize the problems right now and the future problems and design the product. Okay, and for example, Apple has defined what you require without asking you. Okay, they never asked. Okay, they understood, they give some options and say, they again came back and said, this is going to work, this is not going to work. They do user preferences, but otherwise, nobody has told, no customer has told to Apple saying that I need this product. Okay, so they basically think ahead of times. Solution companies, how they operate, for them, customer has to define the problem and they think about the customer and they design the solution. Okay, so now let's visualize, if you are a person, for you, somebody has to tell you what to do, then you get into operational mode. Okay, but if somebody doesn't need to tell you anything, but you define your own path and you come out with a solution, I think you fit into these two type of companies. But if you are a person who have very good organizational skills, good tactics, okay, so you are the person who can fit into services companies and operational companies. So it is not hard and fast rule that which company is better, etc. So for a person who is introvert, if a services company comes and gives a very good fat salary offer, when he goes into this company, he feels pressurized inside. He feels like he is inside a pressure cooker, because his mind wants to be creative, he wants to be flexible, whereas services company are well process driven and he has to stick to the process and he has to only do what is given to him. Whereas let's visualize the alternative. If you are a tactical person and who wants to do in a very disciplined way, and you went into a product company, your discipline, okay, your discipline, your way of life, okay, it will hit you very hard. Okay, it will hit you, you feel choked inside the company, product company. So right now, so what my thought process is, a fat salary, okay, coming from an operational company, for an introvert person, for a leadership candidate, or for a thinking person, is absolute nightmare for him in future. Okay.
That's a wonderful observation, Ram. I mean, amazing. This is extremely well connected and well brought out the dots. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. At the same time, if you are an outgoing person, you're an extrovert and you like things to be done, you want to interact with a lot of people, okay? And then you are like you like to be connected and help a lot of people, etc. If this is your nature, okay? And then you get into a product company, it will be suffocating. It is, even though they're giving you 50 lakhs per month, 50 lakhs per annum, okay? You will choke your life in that. Okay, so after 3 years, 2 years, okay, you realize this is not what I wanted. It is pressurizing me. I want my family time. I want to go by on time. Okay, this needs me to learn every day. I've already learned everything in my college. Okay, but this is expecting me to read. That is where you hit a very, very, very hard thing. Okay, you have entered that fat salary has attracted, may have attracted your friends, may have attracted your family members, may be very thrilling for you in the initial stages, but once you go there, 3 years down the line, 10 years down the line, you feel like, okay, I did a very, very wrong choice. Okay. So for you, if the fat salaries, okay, so whether it's a fat salary or not, you should identify the right company depending on what is your nature. Okay, so we'll come back to this topic once again. Okay, but right now, so I would like to end this, okay, and give. So for a lot of people, they always want to have a fulfilling career. I would like to put this question to Srinidhi. Srinidhi, what is this fulfilling career and how do you choose your fulfilling career? Okay, how does it work in real world scenario? Okay, so I would like Srinidhi to take over this question. Okay.
Okay, good. Thanks, Ram.
Thank you.
That's so nice. It went out really well. Okay, of course, so we are all now speaking to engineers. Obviously, my answer should be more focused to engineers. Just one word of caution before I start sharing my slides once again. Remember that this engineering that you have been sort of obsessing on, living with it for the last 4 years or whatever, the moment you lose track of it for a couple of years, you have lost your confidence. You cease to be an engineer. So your fulfillment to start with has to remain that you are a practicing engineer. Okay, I'll just share something and let's see if we can just give me a moment. So this is where we were last. Okay, personal fulfillment. I think this is what, I hope everybody can see the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So when we say fulfillment, obviously we are talking about personal fulfillment. I mean, it's not, as Ram said, fulfillment of your parents' aspirations or your fulfillment of your friends' coterie and all that, okay? So one way I would definitely say, which of course is quite clearly endorsed, is the personal satisfaction of achieving a work-life balance. That is one very important aspect of the personal, work-life balance kind of thing. The second thing is the fact that you need to realize it now in every position that you have, whether you are an intern or whether you are a managing director or a CEO or whatever, at every position, every role, and every stage of your career, personal fulfillment matters. It is relevant. It is, in fact, I would say it is the most important factor for you. Now, the next one, it is always in the present, not in the distant future when you are gone. Okay. So, most important thing, you must remember, it is part of the pursuit of happiness. I know it is there in the Constitution of the the US Constitution, pursuit of happiness, but it is actually enshrined in human birth. Every human being has to pursue happiness, is meant to pursue happiness, and hence this is what this whole thing is all about. How do you find it? That is the next question. So this is one thing, what it is and how do you find it? Well, there is one old saying that ignorance is bliss. Because once one is ignorant, you don't know how ignorant you are. You are always, in an island where you think the whole world is only consisting of an island. That is what we mean by ignorance is bliss. Use that ignorance only for one reason. Use it to ignore others' achievements and celebrate your own. Don't get carried away by what the other person has achieved. This is one thing which can upset your balance very badly. Because when you see other people, everybody, every human life is, think of it like a vector. You know, it has its own path. You know, in philosophy, there is a word that they use called monad. What it means is every human life is operating in a universe where there are some, happinesses, problems. There are many things. You can't compare two human lives. That is the uniqueness of human life. So learn to ignore other people's achievements because you can get sometimes envy out of it. Vanquish this envy, vanquish regret. These are the two most important things. But replace it with two equally important, relevant things. Replace it with aspiration and learning. This theme of learning has been spoken of by all the people so far. It is sacrosanct. It is the most important thing that has to be followed. The other thing, learn constantly. Find fulfillment by being useful to others. Many people don't realize the subtlety of this thing. See, you are always useful to yourself. You operate. That is the nature, as Ayn Rand said. Human beings are basically selfish. But she didn't mean selfish in a bad word. That means you think about the self. That's what she meant by the word selfish. You think about yourself. But you need to go beyond that. You need to think about how you can be useful to others, whether it's your company or your family or your community or your institution or society or your country. You need to be useful. Okay. So in that respect, I would advise you guys to read this very excellent book called Solve for Happy. It's an amazing book and it is really relevant to many, many youngsters and it matters at a fairly early period in your life. One of the things that gives happiness or fulfillment is when you are solving problems. Problem solving is a very interesting thing. And as long as you are solving problems, one way or the other, problems are abounding all around. You can't expect a life where there are no problems. But with the problems, if you are looking for solutions, you are bound to be happy. It is a very important ingredient in the whole thing. Okay. Now, we just want to talk very briefly about what can come in the way of this fulfillment. Let's talk about incompetence and obsolescence. It's very important because we are, after all, talking about career growth. All of you may have heard of this Peter's principle, which was enunciated back in the early 60s and 70s. Basically, what it says is each person rises to his or her level of incompetence. It's a very strange thing. That means you are competent up to a point. As you keep rising, you start doing more and more things, new kinds of work. Suddenly you find that your promotion and career growth has taken you to one position where you are actually become incompetent. That new position that you have taken, you have become incompetent. Now, obviously, organizations cannot demote you because you are fantastic in the position below that. Like you might have been an accounts manager who was fantastic. But the moment you're from accounts manager, you have gone into some finance function, which is slightly more elaborate and it requires a certain amount of people skill and all, you find that you are not competent anymore. But nobody can take you back from finance manager down to an accounts manager again. So what happens to you? Your promotion and career growth stagnates and then you stop learning. You have reached a role just beyond your capability and you now stop growing. This is a conundrum which people face left and right. I've seen in my organizations and other people's organizations. This is a very common phenomenon. You are now officially incompetent. You have become a liability for the organization. But you might be a very dear person. They will not perhaps demote you, nor will they fire you. They will put you to rest for the rest of your life. What does it mean? You are generally sort of sidelined. You continue to have your title and you'll have your little bit of increments, but you're no longer relevant for the organization. Watch out for this. This is a Peter principle. You guys can Google and read about it a little bit more. This is where your whole life becomes topsy-turvy. Your growth has just gone for a 6. Remember this thing. This is where incompetence and obsolescence matters. And how do you deal with this? Lifelong learning. Okay. Okay. Now we talk about indispensability. What is this thing about indispensability? What does dispensability mean? That means you can be replaced. Remember that. That is what essentially it is a thing. But if you look at it from an organizational perspective, it is how relevant you are to the employer. Basically, that's what it's talking about, right? How relevant you are to your employer. Okay. Now, it translates to dependence that your employer places on you because of your reliability. Now, the employer has started becoming very dependent on you. This obviously comes, sometimes it need not be at a very senior position. Like I have an office assistant. He's indispensable for me. He's never risen beyond that because he doesn't have the bandwidth. But without him, I can't manage. One liaison guy I have with me. I don't have a team of liaison guys, but I have one or two people who are so critical. That's what we mean by indispensability. This reliability or indispensability is your insurance that you will not be replaced or retired. Remember that one thing, okay? How do you ensure that? Constant learning? That is the way forward. Constant learning will definitely grow your humility. Of course, it will grow your usefulness to the organization. Now, I just want to, bring a little bit of perspective to what we talk about in terms of growth. Now, growth, we always think of growth as a tree which is visible. It keeps getting taller and taller. But I am not talking about that. I am talking about the way the roots are growing. Because the tree, while it may grow a little Ashoka tree and all, in the heaviest wind, it will fall because its roots don't grow properly. There is too much footpath around, there's too much pavement, there's not enough nutrition going to the roots. It looks beautiful, but in a heavy wind, it just falls. So we talk about top down. You start off as an intern or a trainee, where this is the time when you are actually learning. This is the starting point. Then what happens? You become a workforce, part and parcel of the workforce. You start doing hands-on working. So this is again to some extent visible. These two things are visible. Then you start going below that. You're talking about a supervisor. Now there are many titles and all, but we are talking about the broad level thing. What is typically a supervisor? He's talking about team leadership. He's guiding people. He has learned how to be hands-on. He has learned workforce, and he is now teaching new set of people and managing them or supervising them. Next comes the manager. Here you are talking about operational leadership, functional leadership, or you could use the word tactical leadership. Okay, this is you must remember that there is a certain level of depth that is slowly developing. What next? Typically your CXOs. What are they giving? They are starting to give strategic leadership. Okay. See, earlier on, you have very clear processes to do things, as Ram was mentioning. But as you go deeper and deeper, your processes themselves become more and more confused. Tactics no longer work, strategy works. And in strategy is essentially how you can deal with complications, complexities, uncertainties. Below this, you have what is called the directors. Now, directors at various places have had different so-called meanings, but a good way to think of directors are the ones who give you governance and vision, long-term vision. Okay. Below them is obviously the owners. But here is the confusion. Among the owners, you also have entrepreneurs. And now there are many youngsters who just pass out of college and jump into entrepreneurship. Your life is hell, I can promise you that. Because you have to be every one of these earlier parts of the thing, and you have very little time to figure it. Because if you don't figure it out, you are invariably replaced. There are enough movies you have seen that is true, that you are unable or incapable of being a true leader, though you have brilliant ideas. So over a point, at a certain point in time, your venture capitalist or whoever it is will replace you. Same thing happened to Steve Jobs. So don't assume that it cannot happen to you. So as entrepreneurs, if you want to get into this ownership role, remember you have to do all of the earlier before you get there. That's what we basically we talk about, how the roots of an organization are developed. Visible tree will always happen, provided that is the visibility. That is where you have, as you were saying, 160,000 employees and 240,000 employees. You will not have 240,000 directors. You will have 8-10 directors. You will have 4 or 5 CXOs. So it's not as if they are humongous in numbers. The visible tree is above, but the roots are all that matters, really speaking, in terms of your indispensability. So how to sort of elaborate on this thing? Remember, technology is applied engineering. Applied engineering is again applied science. Again, basically what we talk about STEM. Science is applied math. Now, different people have defined it in different ways, but this is a useful way to define this whole thing, okay? Very important, talk to your friends in other disciplines, right? One day you may become their boss, or they may become your boss. So you need to know what they are learning. Why? You have to go beyond disciplines. This theme has been brought up earlier. Departments and disciplines are getting redundant. Remember that that kind of silos are no longer existent. Interdisciplinary groups are the key to modern business enterprise. When we say leadership, it doesn't mean somebody who becomes bossy. It means somebody who understands other people. It is somebody who's got the confidence to deal with people more intelligent than him. That is what we mean by leadership. If you want to be a leader, you should be able to live with people who are smarter than you without losing your head or getting confused. So that means you have to know a lot. You have to have a fairly large domain experience. Remember one thing, all these coders that you're talking about, you're encountering, they're all busy writing code to replace you. This RPA or robotic processing automation and things like that are essentially finding ways to replace you. Always remember this. That is a threat you face. All these coding guys whom you encounter in your life are doing this. Please, please become coders yourself. Must and most important thing. Never think coding is for coders. Coding is for engineers. Coding is for you. Okay. So which brings me down to the good old thing. Never forget your high school vector algebra, geometry, linear algebra. If you're not learning linear algebra, you're in trouble as you grow older, because that is what the whole world is talking about. Array computations, FEM. These are all essential. You need to know the what is inside the black box of FEM, not just how to use a STAD or whatever. You have to know what is the nuts and bolts inside it. Coding is the key to removing repetition. Coding is the key to removing you. Coding is the key to problem solving, and engineers are all about problem solving. Okay. Now there is one more aspect of your thing which I would just like to briefly dwell upon. How do you craft your personality trait? How do you hone it? Grow your potential, but dream of reaching your potential. That's very, very important. Don't give up on that. See, it's as important, that aspect of it, as your skill sets itself. Learning new stuff every day in engineering, humanities also, and everything matters for you, right? You can't just say that engineering is the only thing that matters. Read about metaphysics. It's very, very important in life. As you grow older, that is what matters to you. Learn to use first principles, apply theory in solving problems. All this theory that you guys are learning, unfortunately, when I was learning back in the 70s and early 80s, people didn't sort of emphasize the importance of theory, and more important, they didn't prioritize theory. It has taken me quite a few years to figure out what theory I learned there is extremely relevant, what theory can be, read up at a little later point in time and things like that. Please think about it right now. Learn to find patterns, connect the dots in problems, like the way Ram connected the dots. It's absolutely brilliant. It is engineering at its core. What he did was really engineering at its core. Take risks. Think out of the box without the fear of being wrong. Being wrong is not a problem. It's not wrong to be wrong. See, it is wrong to be right all the time, because if you're doing that, you're not taking enough risks. That's what it means. Become inquisitive. Gain this intuitiveness, because that is really the road to become intelligent. At the long run, to become intelligent, you need to, hone your intuition. Understand that processes are the building blocks of all enterprises. Make sure that processes are very much there, but also know that roles lie at the intersection of careers and processes. See, as you go higher and higher in your career, you're going to take on different roles. Each role is doing something in a particular process. And as you go higher in your growth, you can say, which means you're going deeper and deeper into the root of the organization. Remember, processes themselves are very, very confused, very fuzzy. So that is what you must remember that. So with this kind of a background, basically what we are essentially saying is fulfillment. This is really, what we talk about in terms of fulfillment. But this is just my view. You see, all of what we are discussing today, these are our views. This is not necessarily views of any institution or any group or anything. But each of you need to take it, apply the litmus test. Does it make sense to you? And adopt it. It's not like carved in stone for ever and things like that. As I said, this is not something which is taught in first year engineering. It is something we have learned over the years. I would actually like to get a slightly different perspective on this indispensability, maybe from Ashwini. Ashwini might have something to add in terms of what I have shared with you, both in terms of fulfillment and indispensability. Ashwini?
Yes. Thank you,
Yeah,
Shreya.
I'll just stop sharing here for a moment. Yeah.
Definitely. It has quite engaging talk, quite a lot of experiences. Frankly speaking, learning is every single day. So among all the audience, I also put myself, and this has been a fabulous thing that you talked about. on fulfillment, on the personality traits, onto the indispensability, and the specific question when you said to give some more views on indispensability, right? Now, I also just try to connect a few things from what I mentioned earlier on running through your passion and creating a differentiator, right? Now, this is where when you grow taller and taller with creating differentiators, you are making yourself more and more indispensable, right? That the part of the team, the job, the work, right? Be as an entrepreneur. Okay, entrepreneur is a different thing because there's nothing like indispensability. No one is going to take you away. You are there. But then as a part of your employment role, that the more and more you are getting into the core of the affair, that you are becoming more critical for all the people for whom you matter, right? Organizations are all about people, right? And machines come later. It is the people who create, who solve problems, who create machines, who write code, who make automations, all of that. So at the end of it, more than machines, it is the people who need to be indispensable for your own selfish reasons to be successful in your career, right? I mentioned earlier also, let me just try to elaborate a bit that your career growth, the day when your career growth is not your problem and your higher ups problem, be it your supervisor, director, CXO, whoever out there, when it becomes his problem and not your problem, enjoy your life. Enjoy your life because you are indispensable at the core of it, which means you are doing things which are so much more valued that people start thinking it is difficult to run the show without you. Right?
Wonderful, wonderful, yeah, wonderful.
Right?
Yeah.
And of course, if I give you my example, right, as both as myself being an engineer, when at times when I used to worry that there are so many layoffs happening and downtown which is happening. Talk about 2007-8 kind of complete industry downturn which happened, or even in the later years. Every few years we keep feeling that, and the companies have been doing layoffs. My own company also was doing it, and we were worried. Okay, let me be honest here. We were worried. What if our turn comes? Why? Because I probably wasn't indispensable enough. Okay, Srinidhi mentioned earlier, it is a talk from successful and mildly unsuccessful. We are all a part of the game. Okay, you and me, all of us are a part of the game, right? So why we were worried so much at times, not always, let me be honest. There were times when I was not at all worried about certain things. I would do my job and go back home and enjoy life. Why? Because I knew I am at the top of the things, but there were times when I was worried. Why? Because I realized somewhere, maybe those days I didn't realize, but later we felt that maybe it was because I wasn't so sure or confident about myself. Maybe I was not indispensable enough. Now that's one view. Let me also give you another view. Okay, few years later, now I am into the engineering manager role, and I have the responsibility. I have team reporting into me, and I am responsible for delivering certain product and solutions for our customers. Now I have bigger worries about certain set of employees, and not so worried about few other set of employees. Why? Simply because few employees who are really working hard in the center of the game and who are being recognized well by the customers as well as the other stakeholders. I have a worry that tomorrow it may be easy for this guy to switch over to somewhere else because this guy is more capable, more producing results, more being recognized. Right? This guy is becoming more indispensable, and I can tell you truly that as a manager, at times I used to get sleepless nights as well. And which is true for every single person out there being into the supervisor, manager, director, whatever kind of a role, right? I would love every one of you to get into that position where you don't have sleepless nights, but your manager has the sleepless nights. And that is your true pinnacle of indispensability. I hope I'm making sense, Srinidhi, here.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, as a follow-up question, Ram, I would like to ask Ram, one question. See, how does one aim for leadership profile in the long run? Okay, one factor is indispensability. Do you have anything else, Ram, that you could help us out with here?
Yeah, I think so. Thanks for asking that question, Srinidhi. So many a times, lot of times we wonder, how do I get into leadership position? So can I make my background or my roots stronger at the college level itself? Or how do I identify myself as a leader and aim for leadership positions rather than comfortable 9 to 5 jobs. Okay, so this I think I would like to share some exactly different thought process. Dr. Kiran, can you give me share rights? Okay, so I'm the presenter. Let me share very little information for you. So let's try to understand a concept called citizen versus tourist. Okay, so you all guys are in the college, and then you will be there for another 2 to 3 years if you are first year. But let's understand after some time, after 1 year, 2 years, you know in and out of the college. Okay, where the administrative building, how many classmates are there, where do you go for lunch, where do you go for dinner, where is your hostel, okay, where is play area. So you are actually going to become a citizen in the in the college. Okay, same way your native place, you are citizen of the native place. But once in a while, let's visualize from NIT Warangal has sponsored something for few students to go to IIT Kanpur. Okay, so now when you go to the IIT Kanpur, you stayed there for 1-2 days, and you will visit the important places there and take a snapshot of it. So you are just a tourist there. So as a citizen, if somebody asks you, okay, let's say 10 years later, if somebody asks, okay, so I'm stuck up in Kajipet railway station, I want to go to your NIT Warangal. Immediately, without even having touch with the college for 10 years, 10 long years, you have not touched the college, even then you will be able to direct that particular person saying that, okay, you will get an auto there, or you will get this thing, you go there. And if you want to go to the administrative building, this is how you go. And if you want, I can tell my professor, okay, so if he is there, he will be able to help. So you will be able to immediately. So there is no preparation that you require even after 10 years. Okay, that's what is called citizenship. Tourist is you went there. If somebody asks Kanpur, I'm stuck up in Kanpur railway station. Okay, can you help me getting into the Kanpur IIT Kanpur? So you will not have any answer. Even after 2 years, if somebody asks also, you will not be able to tell how to go there, what to do, etc. So how does this related to leadership and management? Okay, so let's understand you are a tactical person. Okay, and you are a fundamental, you have strong fundamentals, one type of a person. Another person is you are a tactical person. So this applies to you when you are in college. Let's visualize there is a student who learns the subject from day one and start understanding the subject more deeply, and also researches more on the subject. And when he goes to, when the exams come, okay, he naturally goes without preparation to the exam and writes the exam. Let's visualize this guy gets about 60% marks, 70% marks, depending on how deeply he has gone into the subject. Let's visualize he gets some marks. Okay, this is one type of a person. There is another type of a person. So he realized that 4 months I've not studied anything. Now let's look at, I want to apply a tactic. What is the tactic that I like to apply? Within a week, the exams are coming. Let's understand what is the pattern of the exams. Okay, let's understand what questions will be definitely be coming. Prepare for those questions. Even though if you don't understand the subject, get what answers I have to write so that I can quickly solve the problem and get the result at the end of it. These two types of people exist in NIT Warangal. Okay, so when we were there, even now they will be existing. But what is the difference? Okay, you are tactical, you are able to get 65% marks, but the guy who has been working from the beginning, maybe he got 62% marks. Okay, or a person who is continuously studying has also applied your tactic, he got, let's say, 75% marks. The difference here is a person who is tactical there exactly fits into managerial position, repetitive job. Okay, so go into it and get somebody gives you the problem, you understand what is that problem, how to solve that problem, and apply your brain to just do that. Whereas the other person who is research oriented, okay, who reads the thing and tries to understand the subject and also tries to understand more and more subjects, okay, he can get into leadership mode without anybody training them. Okay, because the person who has habit of reading books, reading subjects, okay, his mind will automatically be maturing to give ideas when he's stuck up in a problem. So a person who is just learning from what he is doing it, he gets some ideas only if he has already done that problem. Okay, but a person who has voracious readership skills, who keeps reading, okay, for the sake of reading, automatically his brain is going to give him ideas on how to solve this problem because it has got a neural networks will be able to help him. Okay, so the leaders are supposed to be voracious readers. Okay, so if you look at it, uh, Bill Gates, he says that he reads 54 books in a year. Okay, every week one new book he has to read, or he takes about 15 days holiday purely for reading books. Okay, why this has got an impact on your leadership? Try to understand. A person who is applying tactic, he learns from nearby people or nearby people's experience. But a person who has voracious reading habits, he learns from anybody across the world. Okay, he picks up the skills automatically. Okay, through his brain. But this is where exactly the leadership can be built by you. So NIT Warangal has produced world-class leaders who are heading companies of 1 billion. Okay, so 500 million, big companies, big administrative positions, only because you have the capability. NIT, once you enter into NIT, you have the capability. But how do you nurture this in these 4 years is the most important thing. The way you can nurture is you start reading the subjects more, start reading other books, okay? And so that your mind gets, by the time you come out of the college, your mind gets all the knowledge that is required to apply. Okay, so that is how I feel you can basically get into leadership position. Okay, Srinidhi?
Nice, yeah, nice, Ram. Very kind of lucid. And it's interesting, the citizen versus tourist kind of concept. Leadership versus management, yes, many people have debated this before.
I want to end this. Okay, the students has to question themselves: Am I a subject citizen or am I a subject tourist? Okay, so you are a subject citizen if you are continuously reading the subject and learn more about the subject, etc. But if you are applying the tactic of preparing for the exam just 1 week before, I think you are becoming a subject tourist. Subject tourists will find jobs in the management operational role, and subject citizens will find leadership roles over a period of time automatically. Okay. So I also would like to put a question. So one of the things that I would like to explain, how do you get back in case if you're stuck in the wrong place, wrong position? Okay, wrong place, wrong position. How do you get back? Is it easy for you to get back within the 3 years time frame, or is it within the next 10 years later you realize that you're in the wrong job? So how do you handle that? I think I would like either Venkatesh or Srinidhi to take up the
So I
question.
think Venkatesh would have something to contribute here. Yeah.
I will take it up because I have gone through such a situation also.
Fantastic.
So personal experience also would help. See, one point I would like to mention here, everyone in their career has to have periodic self-assessment. That is when suddenly one day you find I am in the wrong job. And this will happen not after too long into a job. It could happen within the first 1 year. If you are through for more than a year in a job and enjoying that job, that means you are in the right job. But then, if you have found suddenly that you're not in the right job, then better start thinking seriously. Most important thing to keep in mind is that there's nothing wrong in realizing that you're in the wrong job. It can happen to anyone, anytime. I think most of us would have found suddenly someday that what I'm doing is something which is not satisfying for me or which is not the right thing for me. But then try to understand what is the problem. Is it the job which you are doing or is it the field which you are in? This is an identifier which you should first get into. And based on that, let us say it is the job which you are not happy about. The company you are working for is not a comfortable place to be in. Then it is easier to change to a different company with the same job profile. But then let us say that the field itself is something which you are not comfortable in. It is better to move out as quickly as possible because if you get into this present role for a long time, it is difficult to change your role and get again back into a different company. For this, most important is to keep reskilling, and sometimes you will need to unlearn and relearn, as director mentioned earlier also. And this is a very, very, very critical phase in life. You may need to get help from some of your peers in other industries to get back into the right type of job. You may need to discuss with some of your colleagues to understand what could be a better way to handle it. There is no unique and single answer to this particular question too, as it
True,
is
true.
all other things. You need to identify, you need to look, introspect, and then come out with answers. And
I
then best thing to do, you start reskilling and then start looking for what was not there in this present job and then get into a new job. I think that's very, very brief way to say it, but then that is maybe the answer.
I
Also, one more point,
yeah. Okay, go
Srinidhi,
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Finish.
just one more point. We were talking about indispensability earlier. Here, I would like to add also, sometimes it is better to be dispensable because then you can get kicked on to the higher level job, in the sense that you train your subordinates to be able to do whatever role you're performing in such a way that you're not needed for that role. And then also you can get changed into a higher role either in the same company or in a different company. These are points which I thought I should share. And maybe Srinidhi, here I would like to ask you, what is the most important thing in a career? How do careers matter? Maybe that is something which you would want to
Yeah, actually, I will just go back to this last question. I think your last point is very valid.
Mhm.
Dispensability in a particular role is useful. Indispensability to an organization is very important. And
Right.
yeah, that's right. And I just, to answer that question, how do you change course? I think
Mhm.
all you guys would have heard this very famous song by Pink Floyd called Comfortably Numb. It's a
Mhm.
very, the concept of comfortably numb is a very interesting thing. Sometimes what happens is you just get habituated into a certain position. You become numb to the whole thing, that you are actually going through some, difficulty, or you're uncomfortable or anything. You just become comfortable, you become numb, and you don't want to change yourself anymore. That is the hardest point you have to fight. So Ram, what you are saying, no, how to do a course correction or something like that 3 years, 4 years down the line. I'll give you an example that, you start off as an employee. Obviously, it's the correct way to do it, because jumping into entrepreneurship is very, very hard, and it is good only for few people, and it takes a long time. The path is quite long. But you start off as an employee with the intention that you will eventually become an entrepreneur. Sometimes watch out that you can become comfortably numb in that employment position. So that you got to watch out for that. At some point in time, you must not lose your original mission in life, or what you have started off with. Okay. So then, coming to this last question, the golden question, of course, all of what we have discussed, we have addressed that. Specifically, I only want to talk about the one most important factor. All career matters to the person whose career we are talking about. Your career matters. To who? To you. Number two, the matters related to your career is something that should be of extreme concern for you. And what we have now discussed, we have looked at it from various points of view. We have been a little bit repetitive, in the discussions and all that. But now I would like to actually request Arati to, throw some questions which have come in from the chat box and all that, which would we will try to answer them. Thank you.
Hello, I am audible. Am I?
Yeah.
If you can speak a little
Little
louder,
loud.
good, Arati.
Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. We have a few questions from people, and the first thing which I see as a recurrent thing is since due to COVID, due to the pandemic, there are very less internship opportunities. So how can a student try to improve themselves, like when they they have to work on themselves. So how can they improve on themselves? So I open the floor to any of the panel members.
Srini,
Okay,
you want to
I can-
answer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I have one viewpoint. Maybe others can also share.
Yeah.
I feel this is a price for learning. Now, just like there are many startups which sell product at a lower price than what they are is costing them. Why do they do that? In order to gain traction. Okay. The price for traction is that you offer it at a lower price, and you assume that at a later point in your life or later point in the product life, the scale advantages come. You'll be able to produce it at a lower cost per unit, by which time you would have got that magnitude, that monopolistic kind of approach. So there's some similar analogy works here. You should be prepared to do this internship for nothing. But remember one thing: this internship for nothing doesn't mean that you don't have commitment or you don't need to have commitment. Without commitment, people will not trust you. People will not trust you to give even internship, because even in internship, remember, somebody is spending time with you, teaching you things. You're not paying them a fee. Okay, they may not be paying you an internship, whatever, stipend or something like that. But it goes both ways. They are still sharing something with you. If they don't sense commitment from you, they're not going to share things with you. So what is important? Be prepared to do internship for free. You don't have to insist on being paid. It's just like a continuation of your college. 1 year at least. Be prepared to continue like college. In medicine, it's very common. In the medical profession, internship is mandatory, and people do it like in remote places. So that is what would be the best idea. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can probably add more things here, Srinidhi. What you've said is absolutely right. Times are different and we need to adapt according to the times and situations. I don't necessarily feel that this is a disadvantage. I always believe that every challenge brings a newer opportunity, right? So even in case of internship as well, as Srinidhi rightly said, that make yourself available for lesser price, as in the internship amount that you might be expecting, or free, whatever. That is one option. Another option is this also gives you an opportunity to think through saying, are there problems around on which you can work upon? When I say problems around, could be social problem, but then when you're more specifically looking at some kind of an engineering solution in the department, in the college, in the campus, or maybe with your other friends and colleagues around, are there things which you can turn around and start working on them, give time to yourself and see whether you are able to come up with a solution for that. That's indeed also, it doesn't probably have a brand name of a particular company where you did the internship, but definitely it does have a value in terms of you applying your engineering learning in terms of understanding the problem and trying to solve. You could definitely take support from your professors. You can definitely take support from alumni, people like us out here. You should be able to reach out. Networking is also going to be important. The very reason we are connecting today and trying to even establish more of that connection is many among us, you might be able to reach out and figure out, is there something that you can gain experience by working with one or more of us out here, right? So indeed, there are opportunities. You need to just look out and you will be able to find out the right ways of doing internship for yourself.
Great, yeah, great.
So I have one more thing, Srinidhi, here to add. Okay, so most of the time, the internships, so you need to understand who is giving value to whom. Okay, so first and foremost question, whoever wants internship should understand, is the student bringing value to the company, or is the company bringing value to the student in the internship? Okay, once that clarity is clear, okay, company can give value by paying money or by giving competence. Okay, so Napoleon Hill once said in one of the major saying, so if you are in a job, okay, which is paying you, let's say $100,000, and you are not learning in that job, you are losing the significant part of your remuneration. Okay, if your remuneration is $100,000, you are getting paid, but you are not learning anything, you are losing the significant part, but the significant part is learning. So the learning, if you value it, there are hundreds and thousands of companies that can give you internships. Okay, so as part of the alumni association, so we are bringing in a concept called bonded days. We have already initiated a small initiative which is running right now. We are trying to collect all the internships the entrepreneurs of all our alumni can give, as well as those who are in the bigger companies, those who have internships, we are going to collect through a committee and then propose to Dr. Kiran on how you can engage the existing students to get the internship. So if you value the internship, companies are ready to pay their time, not money. Okay, many small and medium businesses are willing to pay their time. Okay, if you value that time, definitely there are a lot of opportunities for you to do internship, even in COVID. Okay. Okay.
Thanks, Ram. Thanks. Yeah. Arati, any more?
Yes,
We have
there
just
is
time for
another.
2-3 questions. That's why. Yeah.
Yeah. There is another question that, like, as a fresher or like someone who has low experience, what should one see for a job offer? Taking away the big salary offers that they give, what are the key criteria one should look for in a job offer?
Okay. So
Yeah. Go ahead.
So when you get a job offer, okay, so I want you to look at internally, okay. So are you a person who is creative thinking and you have the learning abilities? If you have the learning abilities, you should have a lot of fight that you have to do with the peer pressure that you get. Okay, so I'll give you my own example. Okay, so I was working initially. I worked for Sonata Software. When it was at 650 employees, I was working there. From there, I shifted to a 40 employee company called CyberCash. But when I moved down from 650 employee company to 40 employee company, I know what is the reason. Okay. And even then, there is a lot of pressure from my family saying that, okay, so you got just go out of the country and earn in dollars. But even then, I have to fight them and say, hey, this is what I want. I want to become a designer. I want to become an entrepreneur. I want to become an architect. That is the reason I want to stay in India. So after the 40 employee company, I moved down to as a 12th employee in a startup. For 4 years, I worked in the startup before I started on my own in 2004. So you need to build your resources to fight the peer pressure in a very nice and neat way. Okay. If you have your own friends also, okay, he's not up to the mark when compared with your intelligence, but he got 18 lakhs. Why don't you get 18 lakhs job? But you should, if you know what path you are going on, you can say, hey, this 6 lakhs job is more than enough for me because it is giving me, okay, is a opportunity for me to strengthen my brain because this is going to throw me a lot of, the small company is going to throw a lot of problems to me. So if I solve it, my brain is going to be strengthened. If you have that kind of a confidence, so you need to also prepare well for fighting the peer pressure. Peer pressure is the only thing that which makes you, okay, your father's peer pressure, your friends and peer pressure, your sisters and brothers peer pressure is going to hit you when you want to make a decision that I don't want to go for this 18 lakh company, but I want to go for a company which is paying me 6 lakhs or 4.5 lakhs, or it's not even paying me my money, but I want to do this internship because I get an opportunity to talk to the, if you join in a 10 employee company, you get an opportunity to talk and work under the CEO of the company who has many problems that needs to be solved, and he gives it to you, and your brain will come as an experiment. You get a lot of opportunities. Okay, this is how you can strengthen your brain and your mindset so that you can fight that peer pressure that you get. Okay,
Thanks, Ram. Yeah.
Srinidhi, may I just add one more point here, just into the last thing which Ram mentioned on the mindset, because the question also emerged in terms of dealing with the peer pressure. Again, some of my own experiences I can share. This peer pressure is something which is there lifelong. At any stage, you always have certain peer pressure, because when you look around and try to see what others equivalent, contemporary, whatever, in whichever the ways you define the peer, the people who are of the same age group, same job role, same company, same society, whatever it may be, right? And the sooner you learn to offload this whole thing of peer pressure, you can start seeing the value through the right perspective. Now, and this is where the right mindset comes into play. Now, easier said than done, right? This is where the real mastering of, mind your mindset, right? Very recently, I was also into another business forum where some of the leaders were talking about this, and a very beautiful thing called mind your mindset, right? So if you can control that, if you latch on your mind to the things which matter, your mind will stop wandering about the things which do not matter. In this particular case, right? The peer pressure thing, someone getting 40 lakh salary, or I'm getting 20 lakh salary, or someone getting this, I'm not getting this. How can I ignore that? The point is, you need to latch yourself onto the things which matter for you. As Ram said, what matters for me is that if I can get into a startup, if I can work on some real cutting edge problems out there, if I can train my brain to apply and exercise my engineering knowledge and create better things, if I can put myself into that or into those things which matter for me, right? And then my mind will not start disturbing me about that peer pressure which is lying somewhere else. Again, as I said, it is very easy to say, difficult to practice, but the sooner you start practicing in your later years also, you will not get worried. At every stage, you are going to face the peer pressure, and it is the art of how you can keep it aside, not to make you, not to bother you about it.
Nice, yeah. Thanks, Ashwini. Arati,
Yes, sir. We take one last question.
one last question, yeah.
So you have talked, just a minute. You have talked about going through a progressive experience to finally reach to the leadership role. How does that work for those who are listed as Forbes list of Fortune 30 under 30? Like,
Yeah, no, this is a question related to, I think, what I presented about the roots of the thing. So I think I can add some value here in terms of responding to that question. I didn't put a timeline basically to it. I mean, you can be an intern. See, let us say hypothetically you are 22 at the age when you pass out of college. So you have time till 30. That is 8 years time. In 8 years time, you can pretty much go through that entire track. That is, you can be an intern for a year, then you can become a supervisor, and you can become a manager, and you can definitely end up being a CEO, particularly if that company happens to be something you have started up. It's your own startup, then yes, you could become a CEO or a CXO, depending on whether you're a co-founder or the main founder. And then once you have, the VC entering, then you would be on the board, you would have a board position, all these kind of things. So it can well happen within the 6 to 8 years. The point which I did make is you can't, if you jump in as an entrepreneur immediately after you pass out of college, you will definitely see some results, but it'll be at some kind of you can say cost. It'll be quite hard for you because you have to you have to role play, you have to get into different people's shoes or wear different hats to understand what it is that makes a supervisor tick, what it is that makes a manager tick without ever having been a manager. So you need to do a lot of reading, you have to do quite deep psychological understanding of what people expect, because you have yourself not been that. The normal growth is you grow through this, so you know what a particular position expectations are. So when you become their boss, you are able to fulfill them. So, but when you jump in as an entrepreneur, it is a little confusing. I started my life as an entrepreneur. I have never had a boss all my life. I keep telling people the only bosses I have had are the customers. You sort of make them your boss. So that is typically what an entrepreneur has to go through. He has to be self-driven. He has to be his own boss. So he has to make the customer as his boss. So I hope that answers that. It's well possible for any of you guys to be the Fortune 30 under 30, but they can only be 30 people. Remember that. Okay. Remember that. Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
yeah, with this, I think we have noted down the questions which we could not answer right away. We make sure that we come back to you through Kiran Kumar sir, and I would like to now hand over to Srinidhi sir to
Yeah.
take it
Yeah.
further.
Yeah. Go
I
ahead.
have one thing. I think we are putting up a website. Your Career Matters will be there on our NITWA BLR website, and where we will also post these questions and try to answer. Okay, and also send these answers to Dr. Kiran. Also, I think you will definitely receive answers. Okay, so we would like to contribute. I think Srinidhi, you can go.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for the incredible patience all you people have given and listening to us guys, literally chatting. I hope we've been candid enough. If we have not, you can please inform us. We can be way much more candid. And that is the whole intention here. And I hope you've all enjoyed this particular session. Now over to Dr. Kiran. Just if you can tell us what you felt about it, and it'll be really interesting for all of us.
Srinidhi, may I just interrupt before Dr. Kiran just for a moment, and then is that okay?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So in fact, I also just wanted to suggest, and maybe Dr. Kiran can also touch upon when he talks about that, we might as well want to put up some kind of a feedback mechanism, maybe a Google form or something, where people who have participated today, let them air their views, opinions also, what they found, and what is it that they would want to hear more. As you said, have we been candid enough, or they want us to talk about certain other things as well in the subsequent sessions later? So we
Yes,
can work
yes.
along with Dr. Kiran to probably set up. We can discuss it offline, but that's also another way to remain engaged with our audience and try to see we are able to add more value for them. As simple.
Correct. We are having the next session in September, first Saturday, right? First Saturday of September. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
July. Yeah, 2 months
First
later.
Saturday of September. Yeah. So these questions can be addressed. Yeah. Go ahead, Dr. Kiran.
Thank you everyone who have actually participated in the today's meeting, and a special thanks to all the panelists who have spent their valuable time for the benefit of their family, I can say, because as alumni we are feeling that we are a family of IIT Olanda. So definitely your words will be certainly will be useful to the students. And specifically what my request is, so the first session we made it very general. The next session we may make it specific. Okay. A motivational session for the PG students would be different, and motivational sessions for the UG students would be different, because the mindset, everything will be different for the UG and PG. So we can plan the sessions separately for the UG and PG. Also, if possible, some students are very much interested about entrepreneurship and how to start and all these things. So like that, we can have a micro sessions with the students, so that we will reach deeper, and that will be useful to the students. That's what my views for the future. Anyway, we will discuss. But I can see active participation of students all the time. We can see 500 students till for the last 2 hours. So that shows how the students are interested about your motivational talks, and definitely we are expecting this kind of population in the future also. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Each and everyone. I'm not naming everyone, but I should to tell alumni in general, and in particular Srinidhi sir, Ashwini sir, Ramkumar sir, and Venkatesh sir, and my own student Aarti. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
you. Good
Have
day.
a good day.
Okay. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You all. Bye.